Over the last few years, as I ditched my fabulous healthcare career that everyone had dreamed of, I've learned a lot about marketing and attracting clients. Things like how to create an effective sales pitch, how to use digital marketing tool like SEO, emails, and social media, and how to get the most out of my advertising budget and effort, and how to build a relationship with my potential clients. But there's so much more to get just to get your name out there. And if you have no business background, you really are at lost. You're confused. You don't know where to go, what direction to go. And honestly, I don't believe that we can do things alone. And so I think if you're listening to this episode, you'll probably also agree with me that a coach needs a coach. And I am not an exception. As you know, a lot of time we try to figure things out on our own. It just takes a lot more time. And I remember when I first graduated from iPEC coaching, the first thing I did was I knew that I needed a mentor coach. And I know that mindset was something that I didn't need to have more work to be done. What I wanted was strategy. I need something that's more tangible that would tell me exactly how to. And if you're not familiar with the idea of having a mentor coach, and basically a mentor coach gives you direction. And nowadays, when I jump on a call, I don't just coach on the mindset. Sure, if mindset comes up, I might work with the clients in terms of their mindset, that underlying fear of getting out there and spreading their message. But, more majority of my time when I work with clients, it's more about the tangible steps of how do we get to where they want to go. So it's not so much of this the mindset that I was looking to have help with from a coach. I was looking for the tangible strategies and system that how someone else have done it and how I might be able to apply it in my own startup coaching business. And so in today's episode, it is my honor to invite my mentor coach back on this episode to share his experience of how he started. This is something I didn't know about him. So you're going to hear a lot from Jeffrey St Laurent, who is the instrumental factor and the person who really got my business going. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Hey, welcome to my podcast. This is a podcast where I'll be teaching you all the systems and strategies you need in creating your visibility so you can turn your passion for coaching into a profitable business. I'm your host, Michelle Quay. I am a visibility coach, content and email marketing strategist, international speaker, and author, as well as the founder of Elevate Life Coaching. Let's just say that I know a few things about overcoming seemingly impossible obstacles in life and in business. I'm on a mission to be the champion that helps you to get to the top of your mountain, one courageous step at a time. Welcome to the show. Today, I have Jeffrey St Laurent, who took a leap to launch his full-time coaching business seminar in 2004 after graduating from the Institute of Professional Excellency in Coaching, also aka iPEC, after spending nearly 20 years in fitness industry. Since then, he has devoted well over 12,000 coaching hours with clients and is highly sought after presenter and business coach. Jeffrey is the author of the highly inspiring book, Being Fulfilled, as well as 5 other personal and business development audios, video training programs that benefit entrepreneurs at all levels of conscious development. In 2014, Jeff has shifted his focus to help coaches transition into full-time business as he saw a huge need because most coaches are struggling, including myself when I first got out of coaching program. Now, as a mentor coach with his business, sellingcoaching.com, he is dedicated to showing coaches how to structure their coaching business from ground up and getting more comfortable in the skills of selling. So without further ado, please join me with a warm welcome, my mentor coach, Jeffrey St Laurent. Hi, Jeff.
Hello, Michelle. I'm sitting backstage like this woman is so awesome. And it's so great to see how you've evolved over the past many years. Like it just, my eyes were watering literally. And I'm just like, kudos to you. Kudos to you. And yes, you are living proof because I remember when you started and now it's just like you are the master storyteller and marketer. And anyways, let's talk.
So it's very funny because I follow you on Facebook and like all this great stuff, your Tuesday live show. You keep it very short and it's very digestible. And so I have watched you and learned so much from you, even though our coaching relationship developed and evolved over the years. Sometimes I sit in my room and I'm thinking, I wish I had done what Jeff told me to do sooner. And that includes the way that you teach students how to do the marketing, how to get clients, how to put yourself out there. I'm really curious. The whole reason I invited you to the show is because I know you have the strategy, you have the system that works. So I'm really curious about how you got started in coaching.
Yeah. So as you said, I was in the fitness industry for a while, 15-ish years or so, and loved it. I actually had the opportunity to move out west to Nike World headquarters where I was able to work when I was in the fitness industry. And due to some family health issues, I ended up coming home a year later. But obviously when I left my personal training business, when I came back and naturally started working with some of those same clients again, whom a year later had gained weight back and just stopped working out. So I'm working with some of the same people again. And I felt a lack of purpose and fulfillment in what I was doing, almost as if like it didn't matter like it did before. Like it's almost like I wasn't leaving any long-term effect. Like they almost needed me always. And if they weren't with me, then they would just not be successful. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like that feeling. I felt an emptiness with what I had previously been so passionate about. And that's where I felt it, as I explored it more, I felt more of an urgency and a need for helping with people, not only just the physical side, but also the behavioral side, the mental, emotional, the mindset piece in terms of how they behave and take actions. That's where I had heard about coaching. And I'm like, I'll give this a shot and see what it's like. And that's why I ended up going to iPEC, like you said, 2003, graduated in 2004. I remember the first module when I was there. I'm like, this is it. I didn't really even know what it was, coaching. We know it's such a challenging thing to describe because it's so experiential. Mm-hmm. But I just knew it was my future and came out of there. And I mean, I was still in the fitness industry, but I just started coaching, started working with people, started doing seminars. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but it didn't matter because I was so passionate about what I had felt, what I had seen, experienced myself. Mm-hmm. And I knew this was the next evolution for me in my career and my business.
It's been a long time. I don't suggest anything, but it's been a while. Yeah. It's been a long time since you first started. And how easy was it or how difficult was it to start a business? And I think I asked that question because a lot of the coaches in my audience, they're struggling. They're struggling to know exactly where to start. They're so confused about all these information that's floating out there. What was it like for you to start your business?
Yes, that's a good question because obviously I deal with that a lot as I speak to coaches and work with them. For me, I think my ignorance, it wasn't bliss, but it was actually helpful because yes, it was scary. Yes, I didn't know what to do. But I think back, how did I do this? I remember, at the time I was married. We were having our first child a couple of years into my business. I had moved into a home that my expenses were higher than I had ever even earned in my life, which is crazy because at the time they were giving out mortgages, stated income, like, yeah, whatever. And so I put myself in a position that I didn't really understand what I was doing. I just knew that this was the thing. Coaching was the thing. And I feel like that ignorance, call it whatever you want, helped me because I was just so passionate about it. And I look back now and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have done things so much better. Like you said, I wish I had listened to you. I wish you'd listened to me and and you did listen to me, by the way, just so you know, maybe not with everything, but sometimes that's the path. but I didn't have any of that. And I did have some mentors, but they didn't help me with some of the specifics that I do now. That's why I do a lot of the things I do now, is because I look back and I'm going to go, oh, I wish I had this. I wish I could have these questions answered. I wish I knew these things, but I didn't have that. So yes, I started working with mentors and stuff, but right out of the gates, I didn't know. It was what allowed my success. And I didn't know this back then. I've analyzed it since, obviously, was my sheer willingness and passion for how I could help people through this modality called coaching. It was a genuine, unbridled enthusiasm for what I was doing and passion, combined with an innocence, ignorance, and naivete. And I'll be honest, like that's what it was, that didn't bog me down or didn't get me to overthink. I wasn't on social media. Yes, it was around. It was a while ago, 03, 04, right? It sounds like, oh my gosh, 18, whatever, 19 years ago as of this recording, right? Of course it was around, but I never got too into anything like that. And of course, it's not like it is now, social media wise. Of course, I overthought, but it was that genuine enthusiasm that just kept me going. And I had my moments, but I also surrounded myself with other people that were not specifically doing what I was doing, some from the community with iPEC. But when I did question or overthink, I sought them out and they helped me out. They helped keep me on track.
I think it's really important for that accountability piece. And I think for me, initially, when I first got out, I knew exactly, I didn't want to work on my mindset. Mindset was not something that I needed. I want strategy. I know I need someone to tell me, hey, this is how I did it. This is how you might want to consider doing it. And you were the person who showed me, here's how I did it, and here's a model, and you're welcome to take it, and you're welcome to go with it. Like I said, I'm forever grateful for the fact that you show me these steps. These are the steps, how you set it up. You take it, change it, make it better, whatever you want to do with it. And you were there to guide that process for me. And that to me is just very valuable. I'm curious because you brought up the time frame in terms of when you start your coaching business, and social media was not the thing. What have you noticed have been the biggest change in terms of the coaching world, coaching industry, and where do you see yourself in this place?
Yeah. So what's interesting is I don't see a change really. In other words, yes, it was always there. It wasn't as popular as it is now. I feel like now there's, and I hate to say there's more of an advantage because I don't know if I really believe that, but I also believe there's a lot more awareness of coaching and what it is, life coaching, health coaching, not just, oh, you're a sports coach or what is that? There's a lot more awareness for the average consumer. They've heard of life coaching. I don't think anyone really knows what it is still, as it was back then, right? But like at the end of the day, there's more awareness of it. And this is interesting because I just went back with the coaching school, right? I had just gone back actually a couple of weeks ago and we did a mod 1, the first module 19 years ago. And it was the same. And it's interesting you asked this question because the principles were the same. The skill sets were the same. They might have been presented slightly differently. The impact on me, having done it then for 19 years on the other end of it, was the same, receiving the information. And the people there, the 39 people in that training over 3 days, the impact was just the same as I remember it being 19 years ago. So when I say it hasn't changed, that's what I mean by that. The fundamentals of its ability to help people and help transform us as well. And also business is, the fundamentals are still the same. I think where people get confused is because social media is just such a part of everyone's life, whether they like it or not. They feel like it has to be, or it's like the only way they can get themselves out there, especially with the pandemic. We're already a very virtual world. That was a kind of 15-year, I'm making that up, by the way, like forced 15 years forward into a further virtual space. Which you can be very successful in a virtual space. I'm doing it now. I'm 100% virtual, but I've also done it 100% not virtual or, face to face. And that's where I feel like people feel they need to do social media, which isn't the case. And they get very overwhelmed because they're bombarded by so many tactics and strategies and quick and easy, whatever. That's not how the business is built.
Yeah. So it's interesting how we talked about the social media and how people can use it in their advantage. So you can certainly see it as a tool to help your business to get going and create that visibility. How do you market yourself? I know it's a big topic, it's very broad, but
Yeah.
in terms of someone who's stuck or starting out fresh, how do you market yourself?
I'll talk about it from not even like myself per se, right? But this is
Mhm.
what I do and what I teach, right? And so if you boil it down, forget about the medium in terms of, oh, I use whatever, Facebook, Instagram, or social media or face to face, et cetera. To me, marketing is communication because the word marketing, a lot of people who aren't entrepreneurs, they come into this world and hear marketing and selling, those two words specifically, and those can be very overwhelming and sound like, oh my gosh, I'm a salesperson or I'm a marketer. They don't see themselves at all, never mind an entrepreneur. So I look at it in terms of marketing as communicating. Doesn't mean we all know how to communicate, but we all communicate whether we like it or not. And so therefore that communication is communicating our message, is communicating our passions, our ideas, our stories. As you know, right? You're a master storyteller. You help with storytelling. And that's really where it comes from. It's communicating through stories. And its most important story is our story. And a lot of coaches, entrepreneurs, we tend to not shine the light on our story as being valuable enough, or we think it's about us and we don't want it to be about us. But as you know, Michelle, it's not about us. Your story, my God, I still see it everywhere. But I remember when you told me for the first time when we were on the phone before you hired me,
Mhm.
I was in tears. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I was excited because I'm like, this story, everyone's story is truly amazing. Some feel obviously truly amazing like yours. And some like even like my own, like I go back, I was always like, there's nothing great about my story. I didn't have anything majorly go on with me or something tragic happen or like, oh, I was, it was just like my story was my story.
Mhm.
But when we start to shine light on that and communicate that, what that does is people start to know us, they start to like us, they start to trust us, they start to, through our words, they start to understand themselves better through us. They start to feel understood, which is so huge. Those are all the foundational elements that start building a coaching relationship. If someone's going to hire you, all those things on some level must be present, along with the value for why they might, utilize your services.
Mhm.
So going back to, the marketing piece is it's starting to communicate with people around what you're doing, your story, what you're looking for, just learning about people. It doesn't have to, you have to get out there and be like, oh, hey, here's my business card and be like that. But it's just telling people what you're passionate about. So go back to like when I started, I told my passion, my naivete and ignorance, if you will. I didn't know how to market and sell. Turns out I did, because I look back now and I'm like, oh, I did. I just wasn't consciously aware of what I was doing. I knew how to sell. Now I understand it. I can explain it. I can do it on demand or more consciously. But back then I didn't know what I was doing. We're
Mhm.
always selling. But what I was doing was as I was taking this this passion about mine, and I was bringing it up to people and saying like, listen, can I ask for your help? Here's what I'm doing. I want to speak more about these topics.
Mhm.
Do you have any ideas? Or could you help me? How would I get out there more? And I asked for help. Sure enough, people, when someone's enthusiastic and passionate about something, people want to help. Not everybody, but some people do. And what I realized over time is that, you know what? Not everyone will. Yet all you need is one person to say, sure, tell me a little bit more. And that leads to another dozen people, of one of which says the same and the same and the same. And you multiply that over, here we are 19 years later, and you got yourself something pretty good.
Yeah. I
But
think one of the biggest lessons that I have learned from you is to ask. And you taught me early on how to ask. And I remember one of our conversation during the session was that I was totally feeling overwhelmed and stressed out because of all the no and naysayers that was happening in my world. And I remember one of the session, I was totally breaking down in tears. I'm like, I can't do this. This is too much for me. And it was just so feeling so defeated and overwhelmed by the fact that I have to go out there and start selling. And for me, your words Your support at that time, it was so valuable. It got me going and thinking, okay, so one little tiny step. I remember it was after a networking event and I was like just crying. I was in my
I remember
TM.
that too. I remember that.
Hey, coach, ever feel like you're talking to some blockhead who just totally doesn't get you at all? Wait, huh? They stare at you as if you're some kind of extraterrestrial speaking in codes, and nobody freaking cares about what you have to offer in your coaching business. Well, the good news is getting your paying client doesn't have to feel this way. As your visibility coach and content marketing strategist, I'm here to help you to create that powerful message so that you can break through the noise and turn on that megawatt light bulb that just fuel with your unique strength and superpower so your dream clients can find you. It is about how you position yourself in front of the right audience at the right time with the right story to connect with them and win their hearts. So turn on your passion and love for coaching and change that into a profitable business. This means that no more feeling shackled in front of the desk while making money for someone else, and no more feeling imposter syndrome as you watch your peer coaches take their business to the next level. If you are curious about how I teach women coaches to use the power of storytelling to do this, join me in a 3-day live masterclass, and I'll show you the 3 simple steps to attract and inspire your dream clients to say yes. So head over to storytellingmybrand.com to save yourself a seat, and I will see you in the class soon. I was in my tears because I don't have the time to attend every single networking event in person. I don't have the time to do a lot of things. And I remember you were helping me writing my book. And that was the first thing when you heard my story, you said, Michelle, you need to write a book. And I remember you sat me down and you helped me putting a date on the calendar. This is a day that you're going to decide to publish your book and you're going to work backwards. And that's exactly, I remember every single detail of it. And I was trying to you, I'm like, I can't do this, Jeff. But you kept me going. You kept me going and you kept encouraging me, hey, get out there, put yourself out there. And this is how you do the ask. Just go ahead and ask. And so that was very instrumental for me in my career to get myself started. And I just cannot thank you enough for all the changes and all the impact that you have put inside of me. And you're right. You're completely right about how there may be a lot of things that had changed over time. The social media, how we're able to do virtual meeting nowadays, but the fundamental hasn't changed. What do you believe is the most essential things for a new coach to have as they're starting out the business?
Yeah. So it's not even so much, that's where there's so many things they feel they need. And I felt I needed this too. Like, so I need a website and I need a social media presence and I need to, get business cards. I need to get a microphone and a new webcam. I need to upgrade my computer. And there's all these things that I feel I need. And then there's all these online scheduling programs like Calendly and whatever else out there. And because when we look at the landscape, as coaches, we're exposed to so many other coaches and so many gurus that help coaches because that's our circle. The average person is not exposed to that, right? But because that's our network, right? So we're exposed to this. So we're always clicking and we're seeing, like your website as an example, right? In your intro, and right, this is years in the making. But we see all that stuff and we're starting off and we feel like, oh, I've got to get all that stuff. And that's so overwhelming. And we have zero clue where to start, how much it's costing us, things like that. So if we go back to that and we start off is, what do we start off with? Is we're starting off with a recognition and it goes back to what I said earlier of your story and being able to start to share that. I don't care. You don't need a website yet. Can you do that stuff? Yes, you can start strategizing, right? Even I talk about, an email list, like you said earlier, like, oh, I wish I had started my email when you told me years ago, but you're doing it now because I see you because I'm on your email list, right? So whatever the time frame is that even when I start with my clients, I'm like, listen, let's start it off. If you don't have a website yet, do you want to do one? Great. Let's work on it in parallel, but we're not going to wait to start. Yeah. So it's taking your message and it's starting to share it outwardly, not like behind the scenes, writing on the computer. Yes, you could start there, but it's utilize things like social media because we have access to that. what are we doing right now? We're streaming live. And someone will be like, oh, Michelle, but you've been doing this for years and you have this beautiful intro and outro and look at your headphones and your microphone and whatever. And it's like, you didn't start with that. I didn't start with this and my colored lights in the background and like whatever. So the point is that you can stream live and you could go live and you could just say, hey, my name's Chef St Laurent and blah, blah, blah. Tell a story, whether it's your story or what happened to you last night and there's a moral to it, or you ask a question as a coach. You might not know where it goes, or you might not be able to see how you can get clients from it, but you don't have to know any of that right now. Like I told everyone, I didn't know any of that stuff, but stuff started coming to me as I did that. And that's when you can start to figure out like, oh, geez, I don't know what the heck I'm charging. Or, oh, geez, I don't know what these people are asking me, or I don't know, have any forms, or here's what I need. And then you can start designing it and putting pieces together and asking for help.
Yeah. I love that. Beautifully said. Because when I first started out, I didn't know a lot of things. So what I did was you pushed me. You pushed me to go, okay, Michelle, do this and go on live. Do your first video, introduce yourself. So that's what I did. And I still kept my first video, which totally sucked. Nothing compared to what I'm doing now. But that got me going. And I remember I wrote a script. I was following a script. I was reading it off. Totally didn't sound like me, but that was my first. And then I came back to you. I remember. So how do I create this contract? So every single time that you push me out there to do an action, to take an action, I start to come back to you and I start to learn more. How do I do this? How do I charge? How do I create a payment set? I think at the end of the day, people don't know what they don't know until they actually practice it.
Yes.
And I know you have something that's really exciting that you're offering, you're running right now. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have a 5-month GoPro Elite, I call it, group mentor coaching program. And I run them periodically through the year. Obviously, we're coming up to a new year. I'll be launching another one come in January. I love working one-on-one. I love working in groups. But this group is a great program where it's a good 5 months where we really get a small group of coaches together, no more than 7. And we just start you off structuring it from day one. And like you just talked about, Michelle, is it's all about getting your business structured. The thing I love about it is that anything that I do when I work with coaches is if we're talking about it, it's because we're doing it. Otherwise, you could just go watch a webinar, go to your website, go to my website, go to my university. You can watch a bunch of webinars that I've done, 300 plus of them, whatever. But this is where we're actually doing it. Got great results from it. And so it's very exciting. We'll launch another one in January.
Okay. And that would be the link to the website. And I will make sure to drop this into the episode notes so that more people can go and check it out in January, before January.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. I wanted to be respectful of your time. And I do have a couple of questions to ask you, including...
I'd spend all day with you, Michelle. So, I mean, I have the time and I would spend all day with you. So this is great.
I would too. Like, seriously, we have a lot to catch up. But my question is that there's so many coaches out there. And I think the latest data that I found from ICF is that there are over 71,000 coaches worldwide. It's a very big, gigantic market. For someone who's coming out fresh and new, who doesn't have a lot of visibility, who doesn't even have the coaching website or whatever, how does one stand out among 71,000 people? And what is the outlook for the new coaches?
Yeah. And so I'll say this, while 71,000 might sound like a lot, it's also not a lot at all. Like when you think of the grand scheme, and I don't have any statistics outside of that, like just how many people are in this industry or whatever industry or things like that. But I bet you if we really looked at it, while it might sound like a lot to us and it's ever growing, it's actually not a lot of people when you consider the billions of people in the world. So with that being said, though, you talked about how do you stand out? And I'll go back to what I said. You stand out from your story. That's your unique fingerprint. I think the biggest dilemma that I've seen with coaches is the niche, right? Oh my God, what is my niche? And it's the biggest thing. It was always mine in the past when I started off as well. And where you stand out is not by your statement. I've been known for talking about like a niche headline, helping who with what specifically, right? You go to my website, like you said, sellingcoaching.com, helping coaches transition to a full-time business, right? I have one, you've got one, right? But the point is, it's not about a statement. It's about the story. And that's how you stand out. So that's why when you start to get out there and you start, like I said, you do a little broadcast. And of course, that's very fearful for a lot of people. I understand, like you said earlier, the first time I was saying, hey, Michelle, let's give this a go. You're like, what? Like it was painful. It was painful for me. Some people like it, but just because they don't like it doesn't mean that they're great at it.
Mm-hmm.
So the point is that that's where you start. But that's how you start to stand out, because each of you have a unique story. And if you look at it, I think every coach in the world, all 71,000 of them, if we really boil it down to it, at the end of the day, we all want to help people lead a more happy, fulfilled, passionate life. Like if you were to boil down every coach I've ever met and spoken to, including myself, it falls probably under that category. I don't care if it's a man or a woman or a gender or an age or a sex or a industry, personal, business. It all kind of falls under that big, broad category.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we stand out? It's just like, well, what's your story? Where's your take? What's been your path to date to bring you to the spot where you want to do that?
Mm-hmm.
That's your niche. You're the niche. If that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense to me. And then it breaks my heart to see how coaches are spending a lot of time working on the niches, and they feel that they have to get something right in order to start something new. And I think what I really appreciated your strategy is that you don't want me to wait. So you kept pushing me into doing something that's very unfamiliar, that's very uncomfortable, but you brought me into action. You took me to action mode. And I didn't know, I'll be honest, at that first video, I had no clue what I was doing, but I did it. And from that first videos, I know, okay, so this I help statement didn't really stick. This sounds awful. So I went back to the drawing board and I redid it. I rewrote my I help statement. And I think one of our call, I actually asked you, hey, what do you think about these different variation of it? But had I not done that first video that you pushed me to do it, I wouldn't have known that, oh, it didn't stick. It didn't sound right to me. I think coaches are wasting so much time to trying to figure out their niche. Yes, it is important, but I feel that they're pushing a lot of time, putting a lot of time trying to find it and not realizing that it actually comes as you do things.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, a lot of it is them protecting themselves from having to do the work that I'm talking about on a very broad level, like someone going out and doing a broadcast or even writing a post. And I'm just talking social media because we have the easiest access to that. Or face-to-face going to a Chamber of Commerce meeting just for the first time to check it out, and a networking meeting and see what's going to go on, who's there, because we're afraid. And I say we, because I include myself. I've been like that too. I know you were as too, Michelle, is we were afraid to, well, I don't know how to answer questions. I don't know what to do. Yes, we can know what to do by having a mentor like us. They can work with people like us, and we could tell them what to do and how to do it, which can ease anxiety, fear, et cetera, lower that level, but it doesn't ever take it away. The only way they're going to be able to get past that is by doing it. And the people like yourself, like when we work together, why you're such a joy to work with is because I'm like, hey, run through this brick wall. And you're like,
sure.
All right. And like, no, you don't need a helmet. You're just going to run through, and you're going to get bruised and you're going to get hurt. But like, we're going to fix you up and you're going to heal and you're going to do it again. Yeah. And then we're going to realize it's like, oh, you can go around it or over it, whatever. And so it's those blocks. It's the inner blocks that they have. It's the fears, the assumptions, limiting beliefs, et cetera, that we all know. Mm-hmm. And we all help as a coach other people to overcome. But it's what comes up for us as coaches in this situation. Because the logistics aren't really hard, yet what makes it hard is what's going on up here. Yeah. And that's it. I have plenty of students, and some take the same information, the same fundamentals like yourself, and they run and they never stop, and they are you now. Like this amazing. And then there's others who have the same information that start and then just keep falling and keep falling and keep going back up. And it's nothing wrong with that. It's their process and their journey. And those that have stayed with me and trusted me enough longer, and I'll work through that with them. At some point, ultimately, when they start running, the only thing that's different is now their timing was really right, or they've worked through enough of the inner blocks that they're able to now do a lot more of it and not feel, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, all that stuff that we've all had in our head.
Yeah. I think it's really important for coaches to remember too. You hire your mentor coach for a reason, and you got to trust that process. And it may be very uncomfortable, someone tell you to do something, but if you were to just trust that process. And it is also important to like really find the mentor coach that really align with you. And there's so many of us that's out there. And so find one that really resonate with you, feel connected to that person, and just try it out. Go and explore, everyone's free offers. There's a lot of free offer. There's a lot of group coaching that you can tap into, and find a mentor who can really help you and make a difference in your world. And like you did for me.
Thank you, Michelle. And I did for myself. I've had my mentors, people along the way. There's no way I would be able to do the things that I've done if I didn't ask for help and hire help along the way, and it's coaching, but it's also like the mentor coaching is a big deal. And I think that's a big distinction because every coach needs a coach. Absolutely. Yeah. But also, we also require mentor coaches or people that have been there and done that can understand who we are and what we want, and then help tell me what to do. Like, I need to be told what to do.
I do too.
Right? We all need to be told what to do. We can figure it out sometimes ourselves, and there's stuff out there that tells us what to do. But oftentimes, especially if it's virtual based or recorded based, sometimes it gets to a point where it's like, well, how does this apply to me? That's where a lot of questions come in. And that's where we need that specific guidance. It's important.
Yeah. I want to thank you so much for your time. Can you tell us, besides your website, where else can we find you?
You know what? Selling coaching is the best way to go, because the other place where I hang out is I have a great Facebook group, Selling Coaching as well. So right at the top of my homepage at sellingcoaching.com, there's a link to my Facebook group if you want to join that community where you have a little bit more activity. Look at you with all their links, like just ready to go.
I'm ready to go.
You're awesome. But yeah, even right at the top of sellingcoaching.com, there's a link right there, which takes you there. So that's where I hang out. And then obviously when you're at the website right there, I've got a great resource. If you enter your name and email, that puts you into my community, which like you do, Michelle, I send emails every week and I just communicate what I'm doing. So,
yeah. And I receive them. They're great emails. I learn a lot from you just reading your emails. These are the email swipe I teach my students. Email swipe.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. And your GoPro Elite would be happening in January. Is that correct?
Yeah. But even if they're watching this later on, when they go to that link, they can enter the name and email. That puts them in the priority list anyways. That will notify them when I'm running the next program.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Any last word before I put you back to the backstage?
Yeah, I would just say, just trust yourself. Even when it feels like you can't trust yourself, you got to go back to your passion for why you're doing this in the first place. And if you can always ground yourself in that and ground yourself in the value of your story, just get up enough courage to start just with something to get out there. It all builds from that.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And there's always us. We're always available.
And there's always us, of course. Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jeff.
See, I taught you how to ask because you ask. You're like, well, you could always hire us.
You could always hire us.
I love that, Michelle. It's great.
Yeah. Never leave a live stream without a call to action. I love
Absolutely. That's right. So thank you for having me on, Michelle. It's an honor.
Thank you so much for being here. I am, like I said, forever grateful for you. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, beautiful. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast and found value from this episode, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform and leave me a rating and review. One thing I was struggling in my early years in business was finding the right people to connect with. It feels like I was on this entrepreneur journey on my own. And sometimes we all just need friends who can share our dreams and hopes. Someone who can relate to what we're going through as we grow our business together. If you are a woman coach who is ready to grow your coaching business and looking for strategies to get seen, get heard, and get hired, I want to invite you to come and find me in our community on Facebook at Get Clients with Storytelling. This is a community of women coaches who want to grow a coaching business by creating engaging, visible, and authentic content with storytelling for their business to get more leads and attract more clients. I will see you at our next tea party.